Hi, I'm Max Keiser. This is the Keiser Report. Only one day to go before the 9th birthday of Bitcoin. Just think about that. In 9 years, it went from absolutely unknown piece of software to world-shaking, Wall Street transforming, society-busting, mega important thing. Hello.
Yes, Max. It was January 3rd, 2009, where Bitcoin was first mined. Genesis block happened January 3rd, 2009. So it's his 9th birthday tomorrow. And we will be celebrating with Jameson Lopp and a whole bunch of people out in Durham, North Carolina.
Big party in Durham on Bitcoin's 9th birthday since the Genesis block. And it's gone through a lot of biblical drama. You think about it. The Bitcoin Jesus became Bitcoin Judas. You had the Old Testament of the original gangsters really gave way to the New Testament of the flash of the pan CNBC fast money types. And it's been attempted to be crucified several times as well. And it's been reborn several times. So it's kind of like the Bible on steroids.
Well, the money changers, didn't they get kicked out of the temple or something like that, and all their money and coins splattered all over the place? That has happened on many of the exchanges. The Bitcoin exchanges have been hacked and all sorts of crazy stuff. And of course, many people have been piling into Bitcoin in the past year, especially. 2017 is probably when most people heard about Bitcoin and got involved or bought their first Bitcoin. Certainly, even people involved in our show, and we've been talking about Bitcoin since 2011, 2 years after its birth. It was $2, $3 back then. And we talked about it many, many times. We've interviewed all the top players in the Bitcoin space, the top guys, and cameramen and editors and executives of our show have been watching these episodes for years. And it wasn't until September, October that they finally started saying, how do I get one of these? Where do I buy it? And you're like, wait, you waited until it was like $20,000 to even think about buying? We told you to buy it at 2 or 3.
That's the amazing thing, isn't it? People that we've been talking about it for years, finally, when it went to 18, 19, 20,000, were suddenly curious about it and started buying it. But that's the way it always is with these types of ideas. They're completely dismissed at first. And then when they end up changing the game, people suddenly get interested. So that's not unusual.
I also want to say, because a lot of people will only be new to this and they have endured the drama of what's been happening with Bitcoin since the futures were introduced and since the huge drops and a huge volatility, Bcash or Bitcoin Cash, and all this sort of drama over the Christmas period on these exchanges. They might be alarmed. So what I would say is that you should go to YouTube, enter Keiser Report Bitcoin, and look back through the years that this is kind of normal for this whole area. It's, you have to think of it like that sort of that Cambrian explosion, the pre-Cambrian explosion of evolution. These are ideas being explored and a lot of failures and some great successes. In fact, humans come out of the successes that happened in the pre-Cambrian explosion.
Well, remember the dot-com crash. The whole NASDAQ blew up, dropped 70, 80%, trillions of dollars disappeared. All kinds of companies went vaporized, but from the mess came Google, Apple was reborn, Amazon. So these are the winners, and now they dominate global trade and global market action. So the same thing with Bitcoin. They'll probably, in another huge drop, as we will probably see, the survivors will come up and be world-beating companies and world-beating applications and coins.
I don't know if we've had any more gifts this year, but I'm sure there will be many more forks in 2018. So it might be good to hold your Bitcoin, and hopefully there will also be clarity because, I think a lot of people were holding through 2017, any Americans in the Bitcoin space, because of the lack of clarity from the IRS. Is it an asset? Is it a commodity? Is it a property? Is it income? Do you pay capital gains? What is it? So I know that's why I haven't really sold any, because I don't know what the tax implications are. But I want to talk to Jameson Lopp. We will be with him on the birthday of Bitcoin, on the 9th birthday. And first I want to say, because of course we've had a volatile Christmas, the past few weeks that has been very volatile over Bitcoin. It just kept on going up. It was parabolic up. And you would see down days of 10, 15%, and people like flipped out. They were scared, panicked. This, of course, is normal for our experience that we've witnessed through Bitcoin through the past 9 years. But here's Jameson Lopp with Bitcoin obituaries proclaimed per year. In 2010, there was 1 death of Bitcoin proclaimed. In 2011, there were 6. I remember that year. In 2012, there was only 1. In 2013, there were 15. In 2014, there were 29. In 2015, there were 39. In 2016, there were 28. And in 2017, 93 deaths of Bitcoin pronounced. So how many do you think there will be in 2018?
Oh, well, but using that chart as a guide, there'll be, 200 or 300, I suppose. But look, Bitcoin is unique. It's the fifth element. It's completely unique in that it's a non-reproducible, non-counterfeitable digital object that can be used back and forth electronically as a store of value. And that had never occurred before this brilliant Genesis block was mined based on the 2008 Satoshi Nakamoto white paper. And it means that all banks, all central banks are disintermediated. They are no longer needed. They're going to go the way of the music industry when Napster was introduced. It's just not going to survive in the same way that it did. And we often said that the biggest terrorists in the world are bankers like Jamie Dimon. This is the terrorist killer. This is going to put more terrorists out of business on Wall Street, City of London, than anything else. And I think it was divinely inspired.
Well, certainly it has generated a lot of cult sort of following, the disciples and apostles and
it's divine intervention.
And crazy.
This is a direct pipeline to God.
Okay.
Is that too much of a cult-like statement?
Yes, yes. And I wanted to say, you mentioned the dot-com bubble. You were around for that and survived that rise and fall. And you were right to point out that there were a lot of people always say, oh, Bitcoin's like pets.com. But what people are saying in response is like, no, this is the internet, and pets.com failed, but just like some of the altcoins might fail, but the things like Amazon, Google survived, and then new companies like Facebook and Twitter that weren't around during the first dot-com crash. So, things can happen, but there is a bit of sort of bubble hysteria going on that you see in this next headline. A small fintech stock surged 2,600% in a week after announcing it's a crypto company. Fintech plus cryptocurrency equals about $7 billion. That's how much the value of Longfin Corporation surged to after the microcap stock rocketed by as much as 2,600% since debuting right before Christmas. Most of the gains came when the company issued a press release saying it bought Zedu.com, a blockchain-empowered global micro-lending solutions provider that transacts only in cryptocurrencies. So even the CEO of this company even went on CNBC or Bloomberg, one of the financial news outlets, and he was like, this is too much. Why are you doing this? This is overvalued. But it was a penny stock, and it acted like an altcoin. Not even any altcoin, I don't think, has ever risen by 2,600% in a week.
Well, why is this happening? It's because the reason why Bitcoin was created as we celebrate the birthday of the Genesis block. It was created to do battle with central banks and banks around the world who are irresponsibly printing money without lending it out, simply to bail out bankrupt institutions around the world. And this has led to asset price explosion and the upward march of wealth to the top 0.1%. The global economy is incredibly distorted, unlike in any time in history. Billionaires are being created faster than one can possibly legitimize, given the underlying economy is growing quite tepidly. Warren Buffett himself said that a company that's growing at a multiple of inflation is probably doing it in a crooked way, because there's no way you can outstrip to an nth degree something that you're bound by laws of physics and laws of business to some degree. And here you have this company skyrocketing in value because there are literally hundreds of trillions of dollars of ill-gotten gains sitting in offshore accounts and sitting in hedge funds and sitting on Wall Street who are bored. They're looking for something to do. They see Jim Cramer on CNBC screaming about something, or they hear about this, and they just put the money available for this is instantaneous. Is there money to fight climate change? No. Is there money to increase labor wages, to restore dignity to society through jobs? No, 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 not at all. It's only money available to the kleptocracy and the oligarchs.
Well, I also think, heading into the last minute or two here, I want to say that, Janet Yellen, they're starting to pull away the punch bowl, and I think this could be also part of all of that cash. Trillions and trillions and trillions have been created in the last few years, and everybody's been waiting for something to happen. Remember, in 2008, 2009, the likes of Peter Schiff were saying hyperinflation is coming. His call may have been too early, but this could be some sort of hyperinflationary mindset that is out there. It's happening in cryptocurrencies, it's happening in the equity markets, it's happening in bonds, it's happening in everything. So this could be a last hurrah, like people like downing the drinks before the bar closes.
Well, to Peter Schiff's point, it's all hinged on the U.S. dollar, the world reserve currency, which is being held up through the shenanigans of coordinated central bank fraud. When somebody breaks rank, this is what's going to happen in 2018. One of the major central banks in the world will start buying Bitcoin. They'll break ranks from the other central banks that are colluding to aggressively expand money supply to bail out corrupt banks. But when one of these banks breaks off and says, you know what, we can triple, quadruple, quintuple our money by going into crypto, and you guys can go and fend for yourself, then the torrent of those trillions of dollars worth of cash that have been kept out of the economy due to illegal machinations by the central banks comes flooding in, and the real hyperinflation kicks in. The dollar crashes spectacularly. That's happening in 2018.
By the way, the Keiser report was also born in 2009, not that we're all the same, but we were born the same year Bitcoin was.
I'm not Satoshi, by the way.
And we're in a new studio here, and I want to say we will be getting some sort of like graphics and stuff like that behind us. But I just want to introduce you to our new studio here in Raleigh. So happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin.
Here's Satoshi. I knew it. All right, well, stay tuned for the second half. A whole lot coming your way. Welcome back to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. Time now to return to our conversation with Michael Pinto. PintoPort.com, money manager extraordinaire out there in New Jersey. The Bayonne Bleeder, they call you.
Bayonne, yeah.
Remember Chuck Wepner?
Is that a boxer?
Yeah. Well, you don't follow boxing?
Was he Italian?
Yeah, he almost beat Muhammad Ali.
Really?
Yeah. They modeled the Rocky character after Chuck Wepner, the Bayonne Bleeder.
All right.
Geez, I know more about New Jersey than most people living in New Jersey. Okay, so Michael Pinto, let's get back to this, Bitcoin, and, you're got a negative view on it. And the points you make, just to recap here, that there's a vulnerability at the exchanges and the on-ramp, off-ramp, where government could go in there and cause havoc. I mentioned there's an intellectual property challenge that could be made. Banks can say we own the IP for this type of technology, similar to the way Microsoft attacked open source software like Linux by saying we've got certain intellectual property there, and they're trying to invalidate this competitor. You also mentioned the possibility of a Fed coin. Fed coin comes around. It's a crypto coin. It's a digital coin. And your idea is that they want to wean folks off cash.
Yes.
They want to get people into a permanent negative interest rate scenario.
Which they will need to do to extricate the economy out of the next Great Depression, which is coming, unfortunately, in my opinion.
Right. So the depression comes when the market collapses. Market collapses because nothing was done to stop it from the last collapse except give the worst actors in the economy more money to go create more problems.
Globally, 70 trillion increase in debt since 2008 globally, so they're going to have to do something. They only have about 125 basis points of bullets in the can there to fire. The United States, I mean, what does Japan have to get themselves out? They've got zero.
Right.
What does Germany have? They have nothing. Right. So they have nothing really to reduce the overnight interbank. So they have to go to negative. They can't do negative interest rates if they have physical cash. I'll just go and take all my hundreds out, put them under my mattress, and you can say I get negative 10%, but I don't have negative 10% because I have whatever X number of dollars stuffed in my house. So they have to get the world used to living off of a digital currency. And by the way, there was a person nominated to the Fed by Mr. Trump called Marvin Goodfriend. And what does Marvin Goodfriend love more than anything in the whole world?
Bitcoin.
Besides Bitcoin, negative nominal interest rates.
Really?
Look it up.
Okay. All right, so there's the, you're building a strong case here. So Bitcoin is just like the gateway drug. It's just opening up to this Fed coin.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's some of my riposte to some of this thought is that I think that the creation of Bitcoin, going all the way back to the 2008 white paper, which describes the introduction to it, which mentions bank fraud, problems in the banking system, and problems in the central bank system, it's always been a race against the failure of the current system, the failure of the banking system, and the failure of the fiat money system and the fractional reserve system. What you're talking about would require more organization that's possible in an environment of more failing banks. In 2018, I think we're going to see a big bank like Deutsche Bank collapse, or some big bank in the UK collapse, because as you know, and as I know,
Europe.
they are technically insolvent. Italy will collapse. I mean, Italy is on the verge of collapse. That chain reaction that sets off and the chaos that ensues, it's not going to be ability to manage that in any reasonable way. And that's why this push to Bitcoin, and I think Bitcoin price, the reason it's so high is that it's discounting of banking Armageddon. It's telegraphing, because markets are a discounting mechanism. They're telling us that in very near future, you're going to have another 2008 banking catastrophe.
I agree with everything you just said. Here's my issue, and I'm sure you have thoughts on this. The government really doesn't suffer anti-money laundering flouting very readily. And the know your customer rules, they don't like people flouting those either. And they really don't want to, with alacrity, give up control over the entire fiat currency regime. So why are they giving all of this rope to cryptocurrencies?
Well, because
the reason is, Maxwell, is because they want to get the citizenry used to using a digital currency, and they want to completely get rid of all of paper currencies. And like I said, this is coming. I don't know if it's 2008. I think it is coming in 2018.
A couple issues with that.
And then they ban all private cryptocurrencies for one public blockchain that they completely control. By the way, when they do that, they can track every single transaction. So the underground economy goes away. Tax evaders go away. And they'll do it under the guise of worrying about, AML and KYC and terrorists funding. And they have all the subliminal reasons why this is going to be a success.
Okay.
And while the public is worrying about what the bra size of Kim Kardashian, they'll have no control left over their money. There'll be no protection from inflation. The purchasing power of their money can be destroyed at the will of the government.
I think you're giving too much credit to governments. And if they wanted to co-opt Bitcoin, they could have during the early years using what's called a 51% attack. They could have monopolized mining with the resources of one or two governments combined. They didn't, because they was not on their radar. They have no idea what this is, and it's completely outside of their purview.
But they do now, though, don't they?
But now it's beyond their reach. The computational robustness of the protocol is such that no country or group of countries or even a global effort could co-opt or usurp the Bitcoin protocol at this point. It's beyond them, which is another reason why it keeps going higher in price, is because it can't be attacked in that way. Second reason is that we have an example here, of game theory. Game theory, I don't know if you follow game theory and the Nash equilibrium and this idea where all of the interests of a given scenario are equally balanced to the point where participants are motivated not to snitch on each other. It's won a Nobel Prize, I believe, for John Nash.
I saw the movie.
Okay, so we've already seen that play out in Bitcoin with the mining industry. The Chinese were very dominant in mining. Now the Japanese are in mining. It was in Eastern Europe were in mining, because there's this huge game theory experiment going on where no one ends up having too much control because it gets distributed and the power is distributed. This game theory is going to jump to the nation state. So in other words, Bitcoin will become a strategic reserve for central banks. And Russia or China could be getting, or Japan, mining Bitcoin as a strategic reserve as they would buy gold in the face of a collapsing fiat currency that we're seeing all over the world. We both agree that fiat's vulnerable. We both know that central banks are buying gold. We both know that Bitcoin is incredibly robust and becoming a multi-trillion-dollar asset. Once central banks start to play the game theory with each other in Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, then that's another reason why you're not going to have any one state come in and decide to outlaw it and do this and do that, because the entire business was just going to flow to the territory that welcomes this new business. So it's competition of the fittest, it's survival of the fittest, and no one country has a monopoly on this thing. It's global, and it's playing out globally.
Well, you might be right, but I think the IMF, together with the global central banks, will shut it down.
The IMF is bankrupt. We know that they were completely bankrupt before they interfered with the Greece, with the Troika, the ECB, and the EU and the EC. And before then, they were about to close up shop and go away because they're bankrupt. They then got a bunch of banks to refund them.
Christine Lagarde can issue her own currency.
The SDR, the special drawing right.
Yeah.
The special drawing right.
How can you be bankrupt? It's like saying the Fed's bankrupt.
Yeah,
well, they are insolvent.
They're
the most leveraged
though.
bank in the history of banks.
Backed by nothing.
But who cares?
Another
who
fiat
cares?
currency.
Yeah. Exactly.
I understand that. That's the roll up all the global debt into a global special drawing right to bail out all the banks again.
Yes.
But it's another fiat currency that's going to drive more capital into gold and more capital into Bitcoin. I mean, in other words, Bitcoin is a response to the SDR. The SDR is just another fiat currency. This can't bail out a fiat currency with another fiat currency.
And you know what, Max? You know who really gets hurt is the middle class.
Why?
This gets flushed down the
toilet.
Why?
There's millions and millions of millionaires now.
Not
millionaires.
because of Bitcoin, but because of the inflationary policies that are going to be inflicted on the American public and the European public and the Japanese public and the PBOC is out there right now trying to keep the Ponzi scheme, as David Stockman calls it, the red Ponzi scheme afloat.
Right.
I'm going to tell you something. All these things are going to collapse probably in 2018 because we have an inverted yield curve probably by October of 2018.
Explain briefly what that is.
Okay, so when the short end of the yield curve, interest rates are higher than the long end of the yield curve. Right now we have 53 basis points between the 2-year and the 10-year note. That's going to invert. If we have,
doesn't that cause credit to seize up?
Of course. Well, if I'm a bank and I have to pay a depositor more than a loan, why am I going to make any more loans?
Okay.
I don't want any more deposits.
When LIBOR went up a lot, and the credit crisis in 2008,
so
we're heading to a credit crisis. How are they going to
absolutely with no
ammo
other than the things I mentioned before: helicopter money, universal basic income, and negative interest rate policies made possible by this universal, we call it a Fed coin or an IMF coin, whatever they're going to.
Okay, now there's 3 billion people on Earth with an internet connection, and now it's easy to go to an app on your smartphone, and you've got whatever of the 150 currencies that are out there in the world actively traded, and you can put $5 into a crypto coin that's going up in value, and that your buying power just went up. In a world where they're printing hundreds of trillions of dollars to bail out the worst financial scum and terrorists that have ever walked the face of the earth, the Bernankes, the Janet Yellens, the Lloyd Blankfeins, the Jamie Dimons, the guys who make Osama bin Laden look like Mother Teresa. People react to that, and they react physically and vociferously, and they want to escape the matrix of the fiat world. I implore you, how much crypto do you own?
How many you want to give me for Christmas is how much I'm going to own.
How do you allow yourself to be exposed to the ravages of fiat in this manner?
I still believe, one of the best things about what cryptocurrencies offer is the ability to move money around the world digitally.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? There are companies like Gold Money, which I own, that has a private blockchain that allows me to own gold and monetize it instantly. And that's where I'm putting my hope in.
They also now offer Bitcoin.
They offer that. Well,
they offer Bitcoin now.
They'll cold store it.
That's right.
They'll engrave your.
And why
your
are they
silly,
doing that?
Your silly.
Because,
I don't know why.
Because the market for gold is dead. Nobody's buying gold anymore. You can't give it away, except for sheiks who want 24-karat gold toilet bowls. Nobody wants a frickin' gold bar anymore when you can buy Bitcoin.
Isn't that sad? Isn't that sad?
Is it?
It is very sad.
What about this, Michael Pentel?
Yes, sir.
Do you ascribe to the theory that the futures gold price is in part responsible for the difficulty gold is having in the physical market to achieve
paper gold
prices?
You mean paper gold, artificial paper gold?
Yeah, do you believe that?
Yes, I do. People getting rid of millions and millions of dollars of gold within 5 seconds, putting in a market order.
Right.
When there's no market around.
Okay.
That does that.
And do they do that on a coordinated basis?
Yeah.
Do they do that to hit the price of gold?
Yeah, of course they do.
So they use markets to manipulate the price of gold.
If you wanted to sell a large chunk of gold, millions of ounces, would you sell it when there was no liquidity in the middle of the night, all at once, with a market order?
clear indication of manipulation.
Yes, but Let me say this: manipulation goes both ways.
Yeah, but we haven't seen it in gold. But so let me ask you this: if Bitcoin disintermediates all the banks and all the Wall Street machinery, isn't it then clearing a path for the price of gold to go higher? You see what I'm saying?
Okay, so I finally agree with him on that. So, yes, absolutely. Good job.
There you go. Michael Pinto loves Bitcoin. We've got that now.
Yeah. Take the words out of my mouth.
Well, we got to go, sadly. Just some things are heating up. We'll come to New Jersey next time. What is it?
Please.
All right, well, that's it for this edition of the Keiser Report with me, Max Keiser, and Stacey Herbert. I'd like to thank our guest, Michael Pinto of Pinto Port. Actually, you should go there and look at his work. He puts out a research that's extremely interesting, even though it doesn't cover Bitcoin. It has a lot of other stuff in it. It does.
It does.
And we'll be...
But not favorably.
No. Twitter? Yeah, we're on Twitter. Keiser Report. You can follow us there. Until next time. Bye, y'all.